What's up everyone, this is BigPowner. I'm here to do an update on the ice shot to show you where I'm at. I've gotten to a place in the build where, it's strong enough to pretty much do everything. Um, n- it, I'm not going to use it to fight Sears because it's not set up that way. I just released a video on my boss killer. Um, they're going to be my main mapper and my main boss killer. That's how I like to do things. I like to have things specialized for what I do. I normally, every season I will do like what I call a bread and butter mapper. This is my bread and butter mapper. In the gear that it is in now, could be, I could just not do anything to it at this point and it will run amazing all season. Am I going to probably still do stuff to it? Yeah, because I enjoy the build a lot, and obviously if you invest more, the build's going to get even stronger. The point is to show you where I'm at right now. This is like my midway update. Did this my first season making YouTube content. People like it because it gives them stepping stones to work their build up. So this would be like showing the performance, and I'll show you the gear that I have. The next step from this is like end game min-maxing, like I'm doing multiple influence items and really expensive stuff. So this is a realistic goal for pretty much anyone to get to, and this will pretty much do everything. This is stronger, much stronger than when you guys saw it for my first simulacrum video. Um, that was pre Watcher's Eye, pre Timeless Jewel, the Brutal Restraint, pre a lot of these gear upgrades. So the build has gotten a lot stronger. Obviously now it has all the pieces, like Brutal Restraint is like one of the main pieces for the build. It's really strong. Watcher's Eye obviously is a really strong choice. I'm not using a crazy expensive one. I am using a fairly expensive one in this video because it's a 2 stat. But as far as damage, it's just number to number damage, which is the cheaper of the single choices if you're just looking at the damage. Anyways, beefed up tier 16 map, Awakener 8. Gonna give it Beyond to make it hard. As hard as you can beef it up. I'm throwing in Metamorph to show you a Metamorph kill. I've got an extra map scarab in there just because. But Awakener 8. Oh, Basilica. This wasn't the map I meant to do. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. So I originally went to do this video, and I haven't played this build in forever.
Up you go, little beast! Away!
You think only.
And I was like, holy shit, what happened to my damage? Did they nerf Ice Shot? And then I realized I didn't have any of my ores on, and I was pressing the wrong buttons for my flasks and stuff. This feels more like it.
Do not worry, little beast. We are friends now.
My mana is gone.
Up you go, little beast. Away!
Oh, sweet. Hey, Assassin's Pins. This is like my first time playing this build in a while. I'm a little bit rusty on the Ice Shot.
That was a hunt you will not soon forget. You're welcome.
Definitely taking those. Alright. This is a terrible boss to be doing this on because he's like multi-stage fight, but I will do him anyways. I will put an option in... I'll put a timeout option in the description in case you don't want to watch a long boss fight. Or if you want to see how it kills bosses on tier 16. This is just a really annoying boss because it takes a while because there's stages to the fight. I could swap into Barrage to do this fight faster, but honestly though,
My mana is gone.
come on. I know you're low. There we go. I was like, I know you're low enough to be triggered. Oh, I don't even have... I forgot to put my pet up. No, thank you. Woo. Oh shit. Ow! Owie! Finally DPS him down. So like that fight would have been, you can see how much I'm hitting for. So a lot of those times when you're seeing no damage, it's because I've already hit him at a damage threshold. The build would, if it was a regular boss, he would have gone down extremely fast. But, you know, obviously it has stages to the fight. So you get the point. It's not as fast at killing a boss as, you know, a boss killer. For instance, you guys seen my very undergeared boss killer crush Cirrus like he was nothing. So the damage ain't there for single target, but it's not like it can't kill bosses. So we're gonna go ahead and look at what I have done with the build and where my gear is at, so you can understand, you know, the gear place that I'm at when you're seeing this type of damage. This, obviously, no damage here. This could have some big upgrades on it. I'm still not in endgame gear. This is just, you know, a place to show you what the build looks like once you have all of the stuff. To see the damage in that type of a place. I'm at 4538. The goal is at least 4500 HP. It makes it so that most stuff outside of big one-shot mechanics, because we have the Zodiac, we have our ice armor, all that stuff, most stuff will not be able to one-shot us because we have a high evade, high dodge. That's also going to make it so that so that we won't get hit as much. But because we have all the damage reduction, when we do get hit at 4,500 HP, last season I was able to survive a meteor from Cirrus with the build at 4,500 HP with the ice armor and the immortal call. So to give you an idea of how big of a hit at 4,500 HP it takes to actually kill you, it's pretty big. That's the reason why we go with the Zodiac and our defensive link. So my gloves, I need to enchant these. These are pretty nice rolls. The thing is attack speed is going to increase our damage a lot. Why is that? Because we are using a bow that has a slow attack speed and really big hits. What's nice about having the Arborix having really big hits is that the magnitude of the hit decides the chill factor and the freeze factor. So having an Arborix that does a ton of damage is a really big deal. The thing you need to note is my Arborix is 30% qualityed. So if you guys haven't done that yet, that's a 10% increase to your damage. That's something you want to do. If you don't know how to do that, if you're unsure about the 30% quality corruption, go watch my video. I made a video on it, step-by-step demonstration, so there's nothing to worry about doing that if it's your first time. I'm still using the same Assassin's Mark ring. Assassin's Mark, obviously super important to the build. This is the only curse that I'm going to be using on this build. The only other choice would be to get rid of the taming, because this season they changed it. We can no longer make dual curse rings. So those are now legacy. All those rings, if you guys have been following me and you made the dual curse rings last season, those are legacy and standard. You can't make those anymore. So endgame choice, you could choose to get rid of the taming, get frostbite, because that's stronger for the build than the elemental exposure one, because it has slightly higher negative to resistances. The thing is I'm not going to do that because this adds so much damage and it gives me resistances. I would have to change so much on the build to do that, and I don't think it would really be worth it. I'm running at such a high penetration that you know, the debuff to resistances, I don't really need it. My amulet, same amulet I was using before, I believe. Pretty straightforward. It's got physical damage and cold damage, so I put the attack mod quality on it. HP, percent HP, dual mod, Gauze elites. The quiver is something that I upgraded. This is something that I decided to do different from last season. The reason why is because the build has changed. I have adapted it. I wanted more damage from my quiver, so I went for gain percentage of physical damage as extra cold damage. This was a pretty big boost to my damage. Adding just that slot, it was like an upgrade of like 9% actual damage. So that's a pretty big slot. I didn't go for extra projectile. Why is that? So we're running the 3 projectile. I'm running 3 projectiles on my regular. I'm running 5 or
My mana is gone.
7. I don't know. 7 arrows on my main one because I'm using greater multiple projectiles. The thing is the greater multiple projectiles on the Mirage Archer basically gives me a clear. And then by not having lesser multiple projectiles or greater multiple projectiles in my main link, I have higher damage there. I can use a Dying Sun instead of the Sulfur Flask. Sulfur Flask, I honestly, I should have a Dying Sun at this point. The reason why I don't is because I started a new build. So I haven't really touched this build because I've been testing a new skill. So that's been my focus. But with the Dying Sun in, then I have 5 arrows with my regular shot. And then I have 9 arrows with my Mirage Archer, which that is plenty. The reason why is if I don't focus on getting an extra arrow on the quiver, it's nice. I mean, having a base 7 and then we would have 11 arrows on a Mirage Archer, that would give us more projectiles. I mean, but the thing is, I don't really have issues with clearing, and that's kind of the reason why. And once I add, so that I have 5 on my main attack with the Dying Sun, and 9 on the Mirage Archer, that's gonna be even better than what you're seeing it at. So just add a Dying Sun to this, and your mapping is going to be even better. Um, which I should have done. Things you should go for on your spike point quiver: you need big HP. The percentage physical damage is extra cold damage. The onslaught is good, but we can also get the onslaught on our boots. I have it on both, but that's kind of overkill. I went for the onslaught and extra cold damage on my quiver before I upgraded my boots. My boots need to get influence slammed, but big HP, filling in dexterity, strength, the resistances I need. I really like the dual mod movement speed with onslaught. The reason why is because you can have 20% movement speed plus the onslaught, which gives 20% attack cast and movement speed. So 40% movement speed from that slot, and 20% attack speed. That's really nice. Once again, attack speed is a super buffer for our ice shot, because it's a slower attack. Same thing with the Mirage Archer. The Mirage Archer slows down the attack even more, so having a bunch of attack speed is going to just help with our clearing even more. The belt, the Redeemer is the influence that you want to put to a Stygen if you are trying to upgrade it. I ended up getting a 5 stat really nice, a 4 stat really nice Stygen, and then I slammed it with the Redeemer Orb, and I got Flask applied, give you a 10% increased effect. That's what I'm going to keep. Obviously, there's some space that I could get better here. I have, tier 7 regeneration, and I might need, no, I don't need the strength, so I could get upgrades on this. But as it is right now, that's really nice. A tier 2 elemental damage, tier 1 life, increased effect of Flask, which is going to increase my damage, because you have to remember 10% is giving me basically 3.3% increased damage just from that Zeres. And then you're talking about increased, and also my Diamond Flask needs to get switched to a crit roll. But basically 10% increase to all that stuff. It's quite a bit that's being added by that, so that's pretty good. But the regular stuff that you should be looking for on the Redeemer is you can get percent cold damage, you can get damage to shield targets, there's a lot of good mods. You can go back and look at my videos on how to craft the Stygens for the build. I already did a craft like that on the belt. That's kind of like an end game thing to go for, but it's definitely a good choice. Once again, I'll tell you the gist of it is add the Redeemer to an 86 Stygen, or I use an 86. You don't actually need an 86. I believe it's a 84 is what you really need, but you might as well get an 86. Because you can buy the base for basically nothing. You might as well get the highest tier, just because they're. Plus, farming the Stygen is really easy to do. Just go to a tier 16 map, add an abyss to it for 2 chaos, find an abyssal underground, and you're guaranteed a Stygen Vice drop, which will be an 86. So, no issue getting an 86 there. The Zodiac I'm not taking off this season. We need the survivability. It just gives too much defenses. Last season I went with a mirror tier crafted, 4 elder stat chest. I'm not going to go for that this season. I'm not going to it just caused too many issues for the build to get the same type of defense with that to it, and the increase just wasn't that much. It's just not worth it. I mean, if you're super min-maxing and you're going for spending 5 to 10 mirrors on your build, then maybe that is an option. You can go look at my last season's build for some suggestions on that gear if you want to spend that much on your build, but that's going to be a really small fraction of the community that's probably going to be going for those things. For our boots, if you're going for endgame stuff like this, everything that I need on it, the one thing that you can go for if you want to go for an influence one is elusive. We don't need double influence because we have tailwind, and we don't want tailwind on our boots because we get increased effective tailwind on here. And this is the other reason I'm going to touch on our ascendancy. We don't want tailwind and elusive. First of all, because tailwind and elusive makes it so that, you know, those are too expensive and hard things to get together, and it also gives us an undesirable set of prefixes and suffixes because we want to be getting high HP and movement speed. So we have one slot. We want to get elusive there. Or you can go for percentage physical as extra cold damage. Do you want the boost to movement speed and dodge, or do you want extra flat out damage? That is a choice that you can go for. I would not go for both though, because then you're either sacrificing movement speed or HP. So I would choose like to go for one or the other, and then that would be a good slot to add into what it is that I have. I mean, I'm basically in a prayer zone where I will slam this and hope that I hit that. If not, I'll have to go to crafting if I don't get something desirable. Gloves. As far as gloves, something like this is really good. You can get up to 16% attack speed. That is the best. You can also go for the number to number cold damage. I believe, check PoE for those stats, but that's the highest number to number cold damage that you can get on an item, so that's a good option. But I would definitely go for attack speed on the gloves. You can also go for things like intimidates if you're going for influence. That's hunters, but I would look for one of those for trade, because crafting that might be a little bit hard to get all the stuff that you want on it. You can try, but that's probably going to be an expensive craft. The helm, we can go for the negative cold resistance, aura if you're getting close to stuff. You can also go for the shocking conflux like last season if you're looking for an upgraded version like past what it is that I have. However, my main thing was I wanted the intelligence.
I'm no fool, but this one's got me beat.
I can't put it back on. I needed the intelligence, so intelligence and HP were my two primary things, and then I just threw on the increased area of effect and level of socketed gems. That's not like something you absolutely have to have, but the extra area of effect on the arrows is nice, and it just fit into the place, but that's not something that's required. Shocking Conflicts would be the best thing as far as damage wise, because the rotation on that gives us the highest damage increase. So if you can get a Shocking Conflicts on your helm, that will be a really strong choice that will give you a lot of increased damage to the build on top of what it is that you're seeing. So if you see what I've got and you're like, all right, I can get all this and I got extra currency, I want places to upgrade to, go for a Shocking Conflicts helm. I would buy one because it's really hard to craft, because when you're trying to craft it, I tried to craft one last season and I failed miserably over and over and over and over again. I didn't have very much luck, but the thing is crafting with stuff, it was just a nightmare. Obviously, you can go for an eye shot enchantment, helm enchantment. Damage is great, more damage. The area of effect is great for, you'll get more overlapping, which is essentially more damage when you're attacking packs, because the larger the area of effect, the more overlap, because the ice shots do overlap. So, the larger the area of effect is, you have multiple explosions. If the area effect's a lot bigger, then a group of enemies is going to get hit by more of those explosions, because, when we're at 5 attacks and it chains once after that, then you have an impact twice, and then you have 2 explosions for each arrows. So, that's a potential ton of hits to enemies. And you're talking about right now, I think I have, I don't know, something like 600,000 average hit or something like that. I've got really high crit multiplier. I have switched in my crit increased critical damage, because my critical hit chance has gotten high enough that the critical hit damage is the better choice, because once again, the higher our critical hit multiplier, the bigger the hit is when you critical, and if you have a high critical chance, you're going to be able to freeze more stuff and apply a bigger chill, which there are a lot of bosses that I am able to freeze the way the build is right now. And like I said, you know, we have a lot more damage that we can add to this build, past what it is that I'm showing you. As far as jewels, I've got the Watcher's Eye now, number to number cold damage, and then I have phasing while haste. I went for this one because it was, I think, only like 10 or 11 exalts at the time, and it was, I, I use the Vol Haste, and when I use Vol Haste, it's either because I'm trying to boost my damage, or it's an oh shit thing, and having guaranteed phasing when I use it, I was like, oh, that sounds sweet. So that's kind of like a defensive offensive choice, but not required. You could go cheap and get the same damage that I have. You do have phasing on yourself, so it might be a little bit overkill. I would probably just suggest, if you're going for the absolute best, either go for the percentage cold penetration or go for the percentage crit. The cold damage is very nice though, and I already have a ton of penetration. So for my ice shot, I have 38% penetration with extra penetration 46 plus 10 against chilled enemies, so 56% cold penetration. So that's a lot of penetration. Um, you know, you could get more cold penetration up there, and you could, if you mirrored what it is that I'm doing, you'd have 70% penetration, or up to 73% penetration. So that would be, wait, 60, 58, oh wait, 56. Yeah, I think 73% penetration. That's pretty huge. So you could go with the penetration. That would be a good choice if you want something stronger than what you're seeing. Brutal Restraint, absolute must. I have one more point that I'm going to put here just because I'm trying to fill in points. And the thing is, the Brutal Restraint, I'm getting like bonuses. Like, I will re-roll my Brutal Restraint once I have this on here, but right now I have everything good. 5% increased dexterity, 20% projectile. I have this here because it's attack speed and 20% projectile. So I have attack damage, attack speed. These are not the best slots, but with the 20% projectile damage, you can see it's 36% damage with 4% attack speed. That's pretty dope. 9 unique flasks, 8% increased effect. It's alright because it doesn't hit my unique ones. So yeah. Obviously 25% crit chance is really good. 20% evasion is really good. 4% life, 4% life. Everything on here is really good except for the one slot that I'm going to be putting on, so then I will have to re-roll this. But that is kind of what you want your Brutal Restraint to look for. And when you look at the total sum of all of these things that it's giving, 25% crit, 20% evasion, 8% increased effective flasks, I have 40% projectile damage, 8% life. There is not a slot that will give you more than this. Oh yeah, and this one right here. So 60% projectile damage. There's not a slot that you can get for this build that will give you more than this right here if you get a good roll. If you have never used one of the timeless jewels before, go watch my video on how to craft them. I give the demonstration. As far as these, the main ones that I would say 100%, the one that I'd say 100% to go for is this damage penetration. You just really can't beat it. I did drop points here. This was 5% penetration. I got 10% here. If I picked up another 4 points, if I leveled up to 96, I could pick up that other 5% penetration, but I'm not going to do that because 1 point here is going to give me an extra slot for my Brutal Restraint. It's also going to give me 24% cold damage, increased effective chill, which is pretty cool, and a 10% chance to freeze. So down here I have 5%, 5%, and then 5% penetration. So 2 points here. I wind up with more damage, the same chance to freeze, and I'm going to get the bonus from the brutal restraint, and I have a higher percentage penetration down here. So that's kind of my thinking on that. I do think I haven't played this build in a little while, so I'm not completely sure on... I think everything is set up right now. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much it. And of course, we have the Lionized Fall here. We absolutely need this. I'm going to explain to you guys why this is so good, because I had someone ask about this. The stats that we get here: critical strike chance, critical strike multiplier, critical strike chance, critical strike multiplier, critical strike chance multiplier, a chance to blind, which is a defensive thing. Then we have life leech, and we have mana and life leech. If you don't have that jewel, you have to pick up mana leech, which takes 3 points. And then you can't get this much critical stats anywhere else for this build. You could, take and do a cluster jewel, and you could look for all of these stats, but the thing is this just provides so much right here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. That's not even a full cluster jewel. You could get four major notables, but the crit ones do not come in until medium. So you would have to sacrifice other stuff in the build, and the thing is we need a lot of points in this area because our brutal restraint is buffing those, which makes them stronger than regular points. So, these points inside of here are pretty much like, they're like extra stat points. So I'm gonna say 100% keep this, 100% end goal Watcher's Eye, 100% end goal brutal restraint. Definitely need all that stuff. That is pretty much the direction. I would say critical node, 100% you want pressure points, 5% chance to deal double damage. That's pretty big, because yeah, it obviously double damage. So yeah, I hope that this is helpful for all of you, give you guys some goals. I will do a final video a little bit later on in the season, where I'll do like a min-max stuff. I am not going to go as in-depth on this build as far as customization and crafting and stuff like that, because last season I did so much for it. There's a lot of stuff you can go back and watch. The only thing that's not applicable is the dual curse ring, but there's a lot of suggestions in there. You guys know the differences between last season's build and this season. Last season I went extra projectile and did a projectile here, which the reason why you don't get this if you don't have an extra projectile is because even numbers of arrows is really awkward to use. So that's the reason why I'm not using this. Instead, I'm taking this because what is it we need? We need attack speed for our bow. This is a huge damage increase. It also gives us accuracy to the point where now I have 97 to evasive monsters, 100% chance to hit. So really good on that. And normally we would wind up taking 3 points here. This would give us attack speed. It would give us more nodes here. So if you do wind up going with extra projectile and the projectile inside of here, then you would want it to go ahead and swap in the acuity. That's like a small change, kind of a preference. But as far as damage, this is going to give more damage because it gives us attack speed and more projectile damage and global accuracy, which frees up extra points here. Granted, we're not going to get the point from the brutal restraint, but it's because we need more points to put into our jewel sockets down here. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment. Peace.